So anyone who is new to ADAC, I'm Katie. I'm the general manager here at ADAC, and we want to welcome you all for Digital Day. This is one of our 2 business series that we do every year. Digital Day is always held in the spring, and it's always held in conjunction with the Design Influencers Conference. And the timing of that, their conference this year has been moved to August, but we still do Digital Day in the spring in March. So this is a business series that's dedicated to presentations about technology, anything in the digital landscape, social media. So we really thank you for being here. It is meant to be a hands-on. Make sure you're learning, taking notes. We left notebooks for everybody with pens in your chair, so take lots of copious notes. We are also recording this presentation too, so if you didn't catch something that you really wanted to see, know that you can go back and read and watch these presentations after today. And we'll send out an email about all of that. I also have an event guide here. We have one more presentation coming up after this one, so be sure to stick around for that. Also, our social media is all located on this event guide. It is a business day, but have some fun with us today. Ooh, that was a phone. Whoever has a phone, turn it off. We go ahead and say that too. And then I want to thank our sponsor for today's presentation. That's Business of Home. I'm sure all of you subscribe to Business of Home. It's a great publication for our industry, and we're grateful that they bring us a presentation for each of our business days. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Laura and let her take it from here.
Great. Thank you so much. Is my mic working? Check, check. Perfect. Okay, good. Can everyone hear me okay? Good. I have a loud voice, so I can scream if needed. Thank you guys all for coming. I really appreciate you guys trekking out in the rain as well. Of course, the 48-hour period I come, it's pouring down rain for 2 days, but it's all good. Thank you guys for coming. Excited to dive into social media trends for 2022, as well as kind of like what to know and what to look for. So before I get started, can everyone tell me if they are a designer or a brand? I'm assuming most of you are designers. Are there any brands here? Perfect. I have content for everybody then. Awesome. How many of you guys use Instagram for your business? Great. How many use Pinterest for your business? How many use TikTok? Early adopters, like it. Okay. I'm excited to dive in with you guys then. Let's see if my little clicker works. Okay, so who are we? So my name is Laura Benlas. I'm the founder of Nylon Consulting. We are a PR and social media agency. We are based in New York, but we have clients all over the country, and we've worked with brands and designers all over the world as well. Last year in 2021, we work with clients both in social media execution, which means we run their accounts. We also do strategies. So if you are someone who loves doing your own social media, or you have someone on your team who loves doing it, but you want to work with us, we do offer advisement and strategy only, which is also a great service. In 2021, we more than doubled all of our clients' followers, impressions, and content that was created and seen, which is exciting. And then these are just some of the people that we've worked with on social media, past and present. Everyone from large brands, national names like Mitchell Gold Bob Williams, Liz Kahn, an interior designer in Boston, Kathy Purple Cherry, who's an architecture brand and client in Annapolis, Maryland, McKinnon and Harris, et cetera, et cetera. So we've done a lot with both brands and with designers. So I'm going to go ahead and start by just talking a little bit about social media in general, as well as an overview of each platform. And then I'm really going to dive into like the trends and what we're seeing. This is also meant to be a dialogue. So if something does not make sense to you or you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand and I'm happy to answer it to the best of my abilities, because I have a full social team that does all the day-to-day like ins and outs. So I will do my best to answer your questions. If I don't know, give me your email and I'll email you the answer later. All right, so the number one thing that we get from people when they're a little hesitant or unsure about how much time and energy they should be putting into social media is the luxury buyer online? Are they really looking at Instagram and TikTok and Pinterest to kind of make purchasing decisions? And the answer to that is yes. 40% of purchases in the luxury space are influenced by what people see online. And according to Deloitte, most high-income consumers actually prefer shopping online. I'm sure anyone here who has clients that send them screenshots at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night of things that they found on 1stDibs or Instagram or Pinterest can relate to this, but your clients are all online. And if you're a brand, designers are shopping online and using their phone. So social media is a really important discoverability tool. Every single magazine in the shelter category has more followers on social media than they do readers of their print magazine. I love print. I have 20 print subscriptions. It's an amazing medium. But social media is no longer just like something that is nice to have or something you should be doing. It is a larger audience opportunity for you, for your own personal brand and for your business. Pinterest is also, what's really important to understand about Pinterest is that it is first and foremost a search engine. It is Google for photos. So if anyone here is a brand, and I've talked to a lot of our clients, most of our clients get 5 to 10 times the traffic from Pinterest than they do from Instagram. And if you are not sure where that looks at, it's important for you to be looking at your Google Analytics and seeing where your referral traffic is coming from. Pinterest is a huge traffic driver. So if you sell product or have e-commerce or want to be discoverable, Pinterest is super important. And we actually had an article that ran on Business of Home from a designer client of ours who got her biggest ground up build, full renovation construction project in Boston from someone who found her work on Pinterest. And at that point, she did not even use Pinterest actively, did not even use it to market her business. So the luxury consumer is online and using social media to find you. So I'm just gonna do a basic overview of each of the platforms. Let's start with Instagram. So the content types, I'm assuming since most of you guys use Instagram, you understand. In feed, Reels, which is their video platform, as well as carousels, lives, guides, etc. How many people in this room feel like no one sees their content and they get no likes anymore? Yeah? Only a couple of you, that's pretty good. Most people are saying they feel like no one is seeing their content, the algorithm has changed, and everything that they're posting in feed and on organic search is getting very low engagement. This is true. So interestingly, Instagram there's two key things to take away from Instagram. Well, really three. Number one, unfortunately, it is a pay-to-play platform. If you're really looking for explosive business growth, it helps to spend money advertising on the platform. You can do that in a way that's on brand to you if you're a service provider. If you have a blog and you want to drive content there, that's also a great way to showcase your work. If you have product, obviously doing advertising for products that you sell. Even if you are a trade-only brand, you can still market to a trade-only client on social media. That's the great thing about advertising is you can make it extremely targeted so you're not wasting dollars. The second thing to remember, which we'll dive into, is Instagram is competing with TikTok. So video is where they are putting all of their algorithmic juice to, to kind of explain it. If you are producing videos, if you're producing reels, they are going to favor your content and show more people your work, which I have examples of in here. Another hot tip, which actually I got this morning from my social media team, that we found on TikTok from an influencer who had a conversation with people at Instagram HQ. So this is hot off the press. Instagram is prioritizing accounts that are, number one, tagging products in their posts. So even if you are not a brand, you are a designer and you don't sell product, tagging products in the posts that you are putting on social media is going to show your content to more people. Number two, they are really prioritizing brands that are utilizing their storefront platform. So Instagram is trying to become a shoppable platform. That is their entire focus in addition to video content. So if you are a designer and you don't have inventory and you don't sell product, that's okay. You can have a storefront. It's kind of like influencers. Some influencers have Amazon storefronts. It's the same kind of thing. Any brands that you buy that have an e-commerce capability, you can build a storefront on Instagram and it will prioritize and reward your content. So that's like a key hack. Again, fresh off of the press. Next, let's quickly talk about Pinterest. Pinterest is a gigantic platform. Those are some numbers. Those are honestly even a few months outdated, so it's bigger than that. One key thing to understand about Pinterest is that Pinterest works not in real time. So people who are using Pinterest, especially for design, which one of the things on the earlier slide shows, Pinterest is the number 2 category. Home decor is the number 2 category on Pinterest. It is a huge focus for the platform. When people are pinning things, they are typically working ahead of schedule. So pinners are planners is something that we always tell our clients. So when we are in March right now, you want to be pinning summer content because that's the kind of things that people are searching for, even fall. So it works very far ahead of the typical calendar. Pinterest also recently changed its algorithm. It used to be an amazing traffic driver for people who had blogs. So people would post blog content and repost it to Pinterest. They are no longer wanting to drive everyone off of the platform. So people who are seeing a lot of traffic from Pinterest also may see slight dips because they're trying to get people, number one, to check out on platform. They want to keep people buying on the Pinterest platform, so they don't want to link out to other sites. They also are leaning into video. That's another trend as well. Has anyone ever made or seen an idea pin? No? Okay, cool. Idea pins are really similar to like an Instagram story or a reel. So it's basically can be a number of tiles that's talking through an example. So I'm just gonna use one like how to mix pattern. You could do it with a mood board. You could show a wallpaper with pillow fabric and a sofa. It can be a vignette. You can be talking to the camera. You cannot be on camera. It doesn't really matter. It's just about doing video content. So highly recommend you guys Google idea pins and start to kind of familiarize yourself with that. That's a new, relatively new thing for them. So they're going to be prioritizing idea pins as well. Idea pins are also great for paid strategy. If you do put money behind any social media ads, you can do that behind video and idea pins. Let's see, what else do I got on here? So this is just more information. You can also like voice over your content. You can always put text on it. Always remember for video content, not everyone listens to video with the audio on. A lot of people will do it while they're waiting for a doctor's appointment or if they're on their commute and not driving. In New York, everyone takes the subway or some people will take a bus. So they may be listening to it like in passing, which means a lot of times they don't have their audio on. So it is important whenever possible to like use text so that people can still gain information from your content, even if they don't have their audio turned on. Let's see. I'm gonna now go on to TikTok. All right, so here's what's really exciting about TikTok. TikTok is the platform that you can go to for organic growth. You don't need to spend money on TikTok in order to get a lot of audience. And what's amazing about TikTok is that it doesn't really matter how many followers you have. You can have 4 followers and have a video that gets 10,000 views, 100,000 views. Like, it's all about the content. It is a content-first platform. It's also a platform, which is fantastic for this industry, that is organized by interest. It is not a social platform in that respect, if that makes sense. What I mean by that is TikTok has 1,000 micro communities basically on TikTok. If you love home decor books, there's a community for you. If you are someone who's really into hiking in remote places, there's a TikTok for you. Obviously, there's a TikTok for people who love to dance. There's a lot of different interests, and the more niche you are, the better, because people are really looking for that. If you start to go on TikTok and look for hashtags relevant to you, interior design TikTok, interior design tips, interior design trends, interior design hacks, it will show you very easily, like with Instagram's hashtags, what the search volume is, which is amazing because you then understand how you need to be naming your videos and also the hashtags you need to be using to kind of ride the wave of the algorithm. TikTok is really similar to Instagram Reels and the fact that it's all about the audio, but we'll go into that in a later slide. What's important to understand about TikTok, and this is why I think our industry is a little slow to adopt, is that it is the opposite of Instagram. We have just spent the last 5 years in this world of perfect curation and beauty, which is like why our industry loves Instagram so much. TikTok is the opposite. Nobody wants your perfect photos. Or if they do, they want it set to a really fun sound with some sort of actionable advice, right? So it's all about kind of informality on TikTok. But the good news is it's also really low budget to get in. You don't need to spend money on paid social. You don't need a professional videographer. It is all about real-time organic stuff. The time limits, they've just expanded it. You can now do up to 3 minutes. I don't know if that's necessarily something I'd recommend. TikTok, people have short attention spans and they're used to like watching a lot of content in succession. So recommend sticking with like 15 seconds to a minute. Everyone loves wow factor. That's kind of something that my team says a lot. So you guys are in the homes of some of the most beautiful houses, certainly in this area and sometimes in the entire country. Your lives are filled with wow factor moments that are really interesting to most people. So just documenting what's going on in your day-to-day is a huge thing for TikTok. If you're not comfortable in front of the camera, that's okay. You don't need to be on video. It can just be what you're doing in your day-to-day life. You never know how interesting something is to other consumers. Also important is you cannot link product in TikTok. So if you are looking to kind of monetize the platform and create shoppable content, you can share with discount codes. They will, of course, eventually make it really shoppable, but as of right now, that's kind of not the focus. And again, it's all about kind of organic content. All right, let's dive into our trends. So trend number 1, creating content that is native to the platform. So this is something that sounds really obvious, but it's actually quite rare. Most people do not do this. For a designer, for example, as I was just saying, TikTok is not centered on aesthetics. It is either humorous, it is either entertaining or it's educational, which we'll get into in a minute as well. Instagram Reels need to be shot on a phone. It is amazing how many times people take really high budget, expensive video production and like cram it into Reels. It doesn't perform. It's just not what people want to see. They're there to see stuff that has been shot on the iPhone using the app. That's another thing. TikTok and Instagram both reward you for using tools in app. So if you are creating a video on TikTok, use the tools on TikTok to edit it because they can tell if you're taking video and just like uploading it from another platform. So that's super important. But use the tools and the content that is native to the platform for that kind of content. Pinterest, again, tip-oriented, editorial, how-tos, and remember, like I understand interior design is a luxury business. You don't need to say like, here's how to install wallpaper if that's not your brand. If you want to talk about pattern mixing, that is, that can be very done at a high level and in a luxury space. It doesn't have to be super DIY. You can do your brand storytelling. Think about the things you talk your clients through. Here's how you create a room that is neutral but using texture, right? Things that are really obvious to you guys are not obvious to most people. And so when people are searching for content and designers and professionals, they're really looking for someone to educate them and to give them inspiration so that they can save it and eventually transact. Examples for brands, catalog photography does not perform on social media. It doesn't, no matter what kind of product you have. If you are a designer who has product, sometimes that's different because your photography for your brand usually looks like UGC. UGC is user-generated content. All that means is someone taking your let's say you are someone who does wallpaper and they're using it in a home and it's what they're posting on social media and tagging the brand. UGC and content that is created by influencers outperforms 10x anything that brands create. So that's really important to keep in mind. Creating all of the content that's native to the platform. All right, trend number 2, which I kind of touched on, video. So if you, again, are someone who does not want your face on video, that is okay. You can still lean into video, and I have examples in here where you necessarily do not need to be the face of it. You also can create video with Reels using still photography. I have examples of that in this presentation, so we'll go ahead and get into that as well. Instagram is pushing Reels content. YouTube has recently launched YouTube Shorts, which are really similar to TikTok. So if you have the YouTube app on your phone, I encourage you to log in and just take a look at it. It kind of takes you down this like fast track rabbit hole similar to TikTok where you're like, whoa, all of a sudden there's 15 videos that you've just watched. Facebook has a Reels discoverability tool. And then Pinterest obviously is focused on idea pins, which are video. TikTok's growth spurt of over 1,000% between 2018 and 2020 is also pretty significant. Like, it's just showing that, of course, there are 15-year-olds using TikTok for dancing videos. Yes, those were the first adopters, but now there are just so many people on the platform that you can't ignore it as something that is like a fringe platform for young people. So that's, I think, also really important. Does anyone have any questions so far? No? All right.
About the TikTok demographics.
Yeah.
Because the early adopters were like kind of teenagers. How did it change like the kind of the in between like the ages?
There's a lot more of the 40 to 60-year-olds on TikTok than I think people know. There's also a lot of people, because TikTok is rewarding organic content, it's a great place to build a brand. And so a lot of luxury brands are using TikTok. Their marketing executives are using TikTok because they have to figure it out. It's kind of like, honestly, it's kind of like when Instagram started. Like, there were a lot of younger people or certain demographics that were really active on Instagram. It wasn't until a few years later that everyone adopted it. The thing about TikTok is that if you can be early, you can see a lot of growth early on. There's also a lot of real estate on TikTok. It's actually a great platform if you guys want to like spend your 10 to 15 hours like educating yourself on what this landscape looks like. You will see a lot of luxury real estate on there. Of course, there's also rentals and things that are, you know, for budget conscious shoppers, but there's a lot of luxury real estate that's on there as well. Anyone who works in like an advice business, like think about all the tutorials on YouTube, those are also on TikTok too. So it's really just about like, as the platform grows and gets more users, the age group just goes up because it's just the nature of the game, right? Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So the good thing about Reels, and I'm actually going to show you guys an example of this in a minute that will blow your mind, hopefully. Reels is all about trending audio. So it's actually 50% the content you put up and 50% the music you put behind it, which is great because it doesn't mean that you need to be a professional videographer, and it's not super difficult to get a lot of views on your videos because if you pick the right music that's going viral, you can ride that wave and get a lot of eyeballs. The nice thing about Reels that is different from your in-feed posts, and this is why a lot of people have said that they are not seeing a lot of engagement on their static posts, is that Reels are pushed to all Instagram users. Most static feed, like in-feed photography that you guys post is shown to 2% of your followers. Unless you're advertising, which of course it goes up. But Instagram Reels are shown to everybody because again, they're just trying to reward you for using their new tools. They're also really trying to target certain demographics and certain interests, so they're trying to go super niche. If you are someone who is constantly looking for design tips or new brands that you wanna shop, that's what it's gonna start showing you more of because it's trying to get you to spend more time on the platform. Reels shopping is also going to start where you can buy things on Reels. I believe they've already started rolling this out to certain creators, but they are going to make their videos shoppable as well. And as I said earlier, which we heard this morning from an influencer, they are really, really pushing Instagram to become just a shoppable commerce space, which is pretty crazy. And if you know that now and you can build your storefront and link to products, you will be early to ride that wave, which I think is great. I also think that the aesthetic will become really prominent. So things that are like, I don't know, like what's important for you to do is to watch a lot of the content and see how people are filming things. And again, I have some examples which I can show you. You can set a phone up and time lapse it so that you're kind of coming in and out of frame if you're like styling a bookshelf. You can do pans, which I highly recommend if any of you guys are gonna be filming video content to buy what's called a gimbal. There is no amount of still handwork in your world. You have one? Good, early adopter, good job. So you need to have a gimbal because when you're panning a room, it doesn't matter how still your hand is, it will never look as good as a gimbal does. It's not an expensive tool. Look on Amazon, you'll be able to get one very quickly. But it's important for you to kind of take stock of like what's going on the platform. Or if you have someone on your team who really loves doing social media for you, make sure that they're consistently looking at what the landscape looks like, seeing what kind of content people are posting, seeing what the aesthetic is. Because the more you can see what's performing for other people, it's just a replication. Understanding what aesthetics are working and what is not is super helpful. Let's see some examples. So this is a fun example for you guys. So this is a client of ours in Boston, Liz Cotton. She has 33,000 Instagram followers. Can you please play this reel for me? Thank you. Oh. I'm like, this was a quiet video that went viral. Everything I just told you is not true. Is it working? So I'll just explain a little bit while he figures out the sound. You guys don't want to hear that. And this is also being recorded. I don't need this to come back to me. So this is an example of still photography. So what's great about this is that this is not video. Everyone in this room has still photography of their work, whether you are a designer or you are a product brand. So what's interesting about this video is that this has 86,000 views. This went viral. Liz has 33,000 followers. And it was all about the music that we chose. You can see here, even without the music, this is not a complicated video. It is literally just photos. But the way that it's set to the music, by using a trending sound, it got 88,000 views. Let's see. There we go. That's it. 88,000 views. That's all you had to do. So that's what's really exciting about Reels.
Was that on
Pardon?
Instagram? Was that on Instagram?
Yes. No, this is Instagram. So they use a bunch of different apps. The timing of the sound is tough. Yeah, the timing of the sound is a little tough. It's let me ask them actually what their tips are for timing. Because it's really important. I'm gonna get a real-time answer for you guys. The timing is tough, and to give them credit, they will sit there and listen and like try and find something that really fits. But I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe that TikTok has started releasing stuff where it auto sets it up. It's the editing tool. I'm asking them right now. That you guys use for Reels. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So I'll let you know what they say. But does everyone here know Canva? Okay, yeah, Canva is a great free resource for adding graphic design to your stuff as well. Can you also play this one? This is Jeremiah Brent. This is a different example. He's not a client, but this is an example of a reel as well, just to give you guys concepts.
Let me come home. Home is wherever I'm with you. Home. Let me come home. Home is wherever I'm with you.
Again, the point of showing you guys this is how simple this is. This is one of his top viewed reels. It has 240,000 views. Obviously, Jeremiah Brent has a lot of followers. So, but the point of that is to show you that it is about the song, and it is relatively simple to be able to do that. Also recommend, if you do this kind of content, again, inexpensive tool, buy one of those like influencer phone stands that will keep your phone sat in place so you're not like awkwardly trying to get it to stand up while you're doing this, especially if you're doing it by yourself. Great days to do that kind of stuff are days when you have photo shoots because you're already styling it. So just don't make more work for yourself. It's really important to try and integrate social media into your day-to-day so that it doesn't become overwhelming. Yes?
Pick the song first and then create content to support it?
No, although you can do that. That is something that you can do. What we do, because we work for designers and brands who have really specific goals, our content is all designed around what their needs are. So if someone, for example, is saying, I'll use an example. A designer comes to us and is like, I don't just do decorating. People come to me thinking that I like buy pillows, but really we manage ground up construction. We do builds, we do plans, we work with architecture firms. So we're like, okay, you need to talk about that. That's something people never talk about on social media. What they do is they just post beautiful photos in their feed, and that's it. And that's why no one knows about it, because no one sees the work that goes into it. So one of our content buckets for her is filming her process and showing what is it like to work with you? What does a meeting look like? Here are architectural drawings. Here you are on a building site. It sounds really straightforward, but almost nobody does that. So it's important when you are trying to figure out what your content buckets should be is to think about what are the messages that your clients come to you with that you're like, everyone doesn't understand XYZ. Those are your content buckets. That's what you should be doing. So we create content and then we find music that matches with it. The good news is if you are not needing to use super elevated music, like a lot of our clients and brands do not want to put rap songs behind their content. But if that's your vibe, power to you, because you will get a lot of views. But the good news is there's a lot of classical and very tasteful music that is also trending. All right, let's go. This is actually a good segue into my next one. The ugly stuff does real well, guys. Important tip. People love behind the scenes. They love the people on your team. They love the process. They want to see people lugging in trees for your photo shoots. They want to see you styling. They want to see you on an install day when all of your team are wearing those shoe covers and you're running in, carrying in furniture. Again, something that people don't understand when they think you only buy pillows. It's important to show the amount of work and thought that goes into a house. It's also really important to do storytelling. So if you are designing a room and it is, I'm just making this up. It's a replication off of a client's favorite paint color when they saw this museum in Amsterdam and you created it in their entryway. Having a photo of that museum if you have it, or explaining how you brought that to life in the home, all that stuff is amazing content. It's not expensive to film. Do it with your phone and you're doing it anyway. So people really love to see the story behind it. The peek behind the curtain. If your brand is also about you as a person, then it's also good to see personal updates. We share people's dogs, we share people's kids, we share it doesn't need to necessarily be what you ate for breakfast, but things that are relevant to your lifestyle. Again, I think it's helpful when I have a designer who gets hired. She thinks, honestly, because her aesthetic is beautiful, but she also has children. And she's like, that is a client for me, our families. There's also clients who are like, I get hired because I have dogs and they like that I have animals and I don't live in a museum where nothing is touchable. So it's important for you guys to share your story in a way that's authentic and in a way that makes sense for your brand. We just included a couple of content example ideas. So a project tour, it can be you walking through the house with the phone. Once again, something to do on a day that you're shooting it and everything is perfect and styled. But you also can do a breakdown of each room. Typical influencers are very good at this kind of stuff. So if you need examples of how to do it, I would recommend that you look at those types of people. Honestly, Athena Calderon is really good at this kind of stuff because she started as a blogger and started as someone who was always a creator and has moved into this kind of very elevated design space. She also does food. But she does a lot of breakdowns of rooms, et cetera, like that. So styling and behind the scenes, again, you guys are doing a photo shoot, show your team installing flowers and making sure the curtains are hung properly, et cetera. Education and tips, leaning into whatever your personal aesthetic is. We just use Wallpaper Wednesday, but anything education and tip-based, it does not have to be DIY. I think that's a huge misconception. You can share knowledge without being a really DIY brand. And I think that's something that is like relatively new for this industry. Everyone has always been afraid to be labeled as like, I'm not going to teach them how to do it themselves. No one who's actually going to hire you is going to watch your Instagram, see you explain how to style a bookshelf, and then be like, well, don't need a designer. That's it for me. They were never going to hire you for that. So important to know that. And those are also great for idea pins. So you can kind of like create double the content. So here are some example reels. Can you show this one, please? Okay, again, so simple. This reel, this is a designer in Greenwich, Connecticut, Cindy Renfrey, who's a client of ours, who's an incredible designer. And she, I believe, had, when we ran this, like I think between 8,500 followers and 9,000 followers, and this got 8,500 views, which is huge considering that's her 100% of her entire follower base. So if you think about like the likes that you're getting in feed, this is also important. Please don't post videos in feed. Please post them as reels because they're not going to get shown if you're posting them in feed, and people make that mistake a lot. Make sure that you're uploading it as a reel, casing it as a reel. So again, this is a good example of like the behind the scenes stuff. You're on set for a photo shoot. You're already there getting the content. A quick pan. Again, so simple, but it works. Super effective, finding the right kind of music. All right. It's really clear now what makes really great organic content. So all great content should fall into two buckets. It entertains or it educates. If you do not want to be the entertainer, if you don't want to be funny, if you don't want to be and I will also say like really kind of insane houses, project builds, that's entertaining. Doesn't mean you need to be on camera. We have an architect who has racked up over 200,000 views on some of her reels. She has, I think, in the 20s in terms of thousands of followers. She has racked up 10x her follower base views by showing beautiful ground up construction projects she's done that are really just simple pans of insane houses she's done. That's it. That's entertaining. It doesn't mean that you need to be dancing on camera with like a dog. Dogs are also entertaining though. So I would put all of that content into the entertain bucket. There's also the educate bucket. So that's the other side. All great content, regardless of industry, is either educational or it's entertaining. That is it. That is social media. So what doesn't fall into that for brands? Posting catalog photography and being like 30% off this weekend. Not the place. Doesn't perform, doesn't usually bring in customers. Sometimes for certain brands it does. If it's a particularly large discount, it might work. But in general, across all of our brands, if you are just constantly trying to sell stuff, your content is gonna tank. People are on social media for delight, so they are looking for entertaining content or educational content. And they're also shopping, but if you can do things in a way that isn't so like sales driven 24/7, that's really important. It's for designers, our main message is always like stop only posting in feed photos of your beautiful projects. It just isn't what the platform is built for anymore. And now that you all know that it's being shown to 2% of your audience, stop sweating what you're gonna post on your in feed and what the caption should be. Spend the time walking around with your phone like this and just putting some crazy music behind it and seeing how it goes. Cause like that is gonna bring you more followers and more eyeballs than you being like, how should I explain this toile? And like, you know, I get it. It's nerve-wracking and people feel like everyone's watching them. But the good news is Instagram's not showing that to anybody, so don't worry about it. Spend all your time on your video on your phone. A couple examples for educates for brands are like with experts. So if you are a brand and you sell a lot of different brands, if you're like a multi-line showroom, it's great to bring in some of your artisans to talk about like how they make things or what your process is. That's interesting to people. Also, home tours are great for both. Before and afters for designers. I know this is like people hate before and afters in this industry, but It truly like blows up on social media. It also blows up in press. When you ask editors, like, because we also are a PR firm, if you ask editors what performs online, they say 3 things: small spaces, celebrity homes, and before and afters. No one in this room probably likes talking about any of those things. So it's important for you to understand, like, that's the clickbait stuff that people really like, and it does perform. It also doesn't live forever. So if you don't want before and afters to live on your story, a hack for if you do post it to in feed, post the after in feed, and the before is the swipe, so that it doesn't sit in your feed forever. But you also can put it on your Instagram stories, and those go away after a day. So really good to kind of do that. As well as explanation of process, and as I've said, like how-to reels that feature tips, floral styling, how to pick lighting for your room, how to layer lighting for your room, how to shop for flush mounts. I could go on for hours, but also ask me anythings. The quiz and the poll options that are in Instagram stories are actually amazing ways to boost your engagement rate, because that just means your audience starts to interact with you. So we've been doing that with designers, and we've seen a lot of success in their engagement rate going up. The next trend would be that, this is actually interesting, but people are now using social media data to evaluate creative. So what that means is if you're a brand and you want to run 4 different ad sets, that's a great way to test what kind of content you should really be leaning into. Because if you run the same headline, the same call to action, the same information, the same demographic, but with 4 different photos or videos, and you see what works and what doesn't, that's a very inexpensive way to test content. Also great for designers. You really should be looking at your analytics. We do monthly reports for our clients. We also do quarterly. I would recommend that if you're really trying to figure out if a new strategy is working, to look at things on a quarterly basis, because month to month, things can change. You can have a really rock star month one month and not as well the next month, but if it was a fluke month, you don't want to change everything based on that. We typically advise clients to give social media strategies like 3 months to kind of evaluate how it's going. But that's the really exciting thing, and that's relatively new, is that brands and designers are using social listening tools to listen to consumer insights, and that's actually really feeding their strategy. And they're also, again, like using it to test out imagery and information. So it's kind of exciting if you think about it, social media as like a little laboratory for you to kind of test certain ideas without making huge investment into them first. Another one, which I kind of touched on, and this kind of goes back to what that influencer was talking about this morning, social media, especially with the pandemic. I'm sure any of you guys who have listened to kind of any podcasts or interviews with experts about the pandemic, it really is just that it sped trends up about 10 years. So social media shopping is huge, and it is here to stay, and it is a much larger piece of the pie now than it was pre-pandemic, and it will just continue to grow. They're saying like furniture and appliance revenue in e-com is expected to grow by 52% in 2022, which is really saying something considering 2020 and 2021's numbers, which were kind of, for a lot of people, ridiculously high because of all of the projects and renovations and movings that happened. But yeah, I mean, another data point is just that like 87% after seeing posts and product on a platform on social media took action of consumers. So again, people are shopping and they are using platforms to shop. So super important to use. And then trend number 8, I actually did not do 10 trends because I wanted to dive into all of the other things. So we'll end on trend number 8, influencer marketing. So influencer marketing is relevant for all of you in this room, whether you are a brand or whether you are a designer, because if you are a brand, you should be working with influencers for 2 reasons. One, it is like the only way to grow your audience other than social media advertising. Audience growth is almost exclusively the reason that brands now use influencers. The other reason is content. So UGC influencer photography outperforms branded content all the time. How people are using it, how people are talking about it. It's a great way to message things that are really hard to get across, like on your website, on your email blasts, in your catalogs. Let's say you have a ton of, I don't know, I'm making this up again, but like, let's say you're an upholstery brand and you have launched a huge line of case goods. You've emailed the world, but people don't realize that they're customizable, and what's shown on the website is not the only thing that's available. Influencer is an amazing way to talk about customization because you can have a designer or an influencer talking about your piece, but also talking about how they customized it. That tells your story in a way that is more authentic, organic, and is going to resonate with people way faster than like an email blast being like, we offer custom. For designers, I think it's important that you guys start to think about what your brand could be if you were an influencer. Every trade brand, you are their only audience. You are who they are trying to reach. You are who they want to buy from them. It's important for you to start thinking about if you have really amazing content and photography. Let's say you're installing a home and you have, $70,000 worth of lighting from one brand in that house. You should be in touch with that brand to see if they want the content for their own social channels and to use in their own catalog and to use in their email blasts. As long as they credit you, that is free marketing and publicity for you. So I think it's important for you guys to realize how, number one, expensive it is to shoot things, especially for brands who don't sell finished product like fabric or kitchens or tile. It's hugely expensive for them to do photo shoots. And also, it's a huge audience for you guys to cross-promote your services and your work. So I think it's important for you to think about tagging your sources, tagging your brands, tagging your vendors that you work with all the time. Because if they're reusing it and they're seeing you as a champion of their brand and they are thinking about doing more marketing campaigns, they're going to come first to you. That is basically concludes our presentation. I just did want to call out a couple of the packages that we offer. So we're an agency. We work with companies on usually an annual basis. But if you do want to work with us just for a small consulting package, we have two different ones that are specific to social media. One is Launchpad. It's really good for beginners. If you don't know that much about social media and you feel like you want someone to kind of talk you through everything, we will build a roadmap for you, give you content buckets. Everything will be based on your own custom business goals and needs. We also offer something called Strategy Light. That is really for people who understand social media, but they want to take it to the next level. An example of that is we worked with a brand who said, we've been doing a lot of reels, we have a lot of followers, but we're not selling enough stuff through this platform, and I know that we should be. So we built a really custom strategy, and the good news is it's a really low investment for a strategy that you execute. So these are just two packages that we offer. And if you have any questions or want to get in touch, here's my email. Please reach out and email me and let me know if there's anything that I can answer for you, if you guys have any other questions. And I'm seeing if my team got back to me about that editing tool. Nope, not. Oh, they said it's within the app. Who asked that question? Yeah, they said it's within the app. You can turn stories into reels, and it's an auto feature for matching them to music. So good news, easier than everyone thought. All right, that's my presentation. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so we've got a little bit of time for some questions if there's any from the audience. And I do have the microphone. If you have a question, raise your hand. Let me get to you so that we can make sure that it's on microphone so that we can get it on our video. Yes, okay. Here, I'm going to start here and come back that way.
In general, what is a good goal for how often to post new content?
That's a good question. So typically we tell our clients are you talking about with Instagram?
We'll start, with Instagram.
So with Instagram, I would say we typically say 2 to 3 times a week in feed. We say reels, ideally at least once a week. So ideally twice a week if you can. And stories, honestly, as much as you can. So if you're looking at a diagram of time, most people think about in feed this much. They think about stories this much, and they never touch reels. Actually, it should be the opposite. Your time and energy should be going into video and reels. Then it should be stories that you just document throughout your day. And the last thing you should really be prioritizing is in feed. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have 2 questions, both about Reels. With the Reels, you said that 50% of it is based off of the music that you choose.
Yep.
where do you find your trending music?
You can, honestly, it's something that you should look up. There is a lot of influencers that do tutorials on it, and if you Google how to find trending sounds, it'll show you. You can go to your Explore page, and if you just start to like look at the reels that it's feeding you, a lot of times that'll start to give you a sense of like what audio is trending. Does everyone know what the Explore page is? It's like the feed that shows you random videos and stuff. It's like a grid. That's a good way to do it, but I would Google it because a lot of people will talk you through like hacks and ways that you can find kind of trending audio. But another small hack and way to do it is like if there's an influencer or designer that has a lot of followers that's really killing it on Reels, good hack is to like see what sound they're using. Because they're usually on top of it, especially if it's someone who's kind of brand aligned to what you have. Yeah.
Just to help with that, so you can, the audio that shows on, I'm sorry. So the audio that shows on any reel, you want to watch influencers and reels. And then the audio that shows up, you can click it on the right, bottom right of the screen, and it'll pull up how many times it's been used, and you can save it. So when you go to use it, you just pull that saved audio. So you want to use ones that are trending at, over 10,000 reels have been made with that audio.
Right. My thing is I create a lot of reels. And throughout this process, finding the different music to use, it's like an up and down type of slope. So even when you're watching reels, that may not be the necessary trending sound for that week or that moment.
Yeah.
So even when you check and see how many followers it has or how many times it's been used, it could have been used a lot of times, but that could have been last month.
Yeah.
It may not be this month, and you may just be hearing it for the first time, or you keep hearing the same one because this is a song that you like.
Yeah.
So you keep seeing the same
Yeah.
type of content because
Yeah.
of the algorithm that's following you.
Yeah.
Because in Reels, like they say, it's like the Explore page for your content, but it's shown to people who like the same type of stuff that you like. So you're seeing the same things over and over again. It's not necessarily trending for that moment. It's just what you like.
Yeah.
So I run into that a lot, and then I'm on TikTok seeing what they have as the trending, because they'll label it as trending, but not sure if it's still the same trending on Instagram as it is on TikTok.
Sometimes it crosses over. And actually, my team, I know a lot of times will look on TikTok first because that's where a lot of trends are coming from to see, and then they'll check what the views are on Instagram too. So they'll never use it if it's not also trending on Instagram, but it's helpful, especially if you're doing two platforms, to use the same sound. It's also like a cultural thing, which sounds weird, but we just posted a reel using the theme song from Euphoria, and it was like blowing up. That song was going everywhere. I think it's the theme song of the show. And so a lot of it is culturally based. Like if there's a new show that's really hot, like Big Little Lies a few years ago, like that sound probably would have been trending at the time. So it's also good to think about that kind of stuff.
Great. And then with your, you spoke about views and how many views that you see on your reels and how that affects the algorithm. And it's great that you get 10,000 views or whatever. Our reels have not reached over, I think it's like 15,000 has been the most.
That's great though. That's a lot.
It is great for that one. So then there's others that are like 10, 8, 2,000. Then you have some that are like 50. And you're like, wait, why is this one only 50 opposed to another one? And I'm sure it's whatever's being shown or whatever music is being used at the time. But how does that compare to the likes on the reels? Do they stand the same, or is one better than the other?
What do you mean?
Because on your reels, you can have views, but your views and your likes don't equate.
Yes.
So whenever it's being picked up in the algorithm of who it's going to be shown to, does it matter how many likes are on your reel opposed to how many people are actually watching the reel?
Yeah, like it's about the views. Like you're in the business of service, so you want reach. It doesn't matter if like 1,500 people like your stuff. You want people to be watching it. right?
Right.
So like likes is like part of what gets rolled into your engagements. And so likes, comments, shares, saves, like what we tell our clients is it's not really about, like likes are great, but it's not really so much about that. I would actually argue that views and shares and saves are more important and more valuable, especially if you sell a luxury product, because people don't impulse buy an interior designer. Like they save it and then they come back to it. I will share a story. We have a client who was followed on social media for 6 months before this woman got in touch with her and hired her for her biggest project she's had in 5 years. But she followed her for 6 months. She saved her content, watched her on camera, and one of the pieces of feedback she gave her was like, it was actually really nice for me to like follow along on what it's like to work with you and to see you in front of the camera, because most designers don't put themselves on camera and you don't know what their personality is like. You guys know better than anyone. Ultimately, it's about the relationship that you have with your client. And so for them to see that you're not some scary person in an ivory tower is important. And so I would argue that like, I wouldn't worry so much about the likes. To me, I would advise that like views and reach is really what matters. Yeah, yeah.
Great question. This is a really probably stupid question for all y'all, because
There's no stupid
real
questions.
green on this. What does it mean to boost your thing?
It's advertising. Yeah, so boosting a post, there's like 2 ways that you can advertise on Instagram. One is like by going into Ads Manager on Facebook. It's much more targeted. You can get really specific. Boosting posts is like boosting things that you've already posted in feed. So it's just saying like, do you want to put money behind this? We have clients that have really successfully grown their audience by boosting posts, but I would recommend, and what you'll see on Instagram is that it's only recommending you boost posts that are already performing well. So that's what we recommend. When someone's trying to figure out what creative to put money behind, we always say use your top performers. Even if you're bored of seeing them, if they're performing, then like that's what you should be putting your money behind. And that goes back to the trend of like use social media as data. It sounds weird, but like that is all information and data for you guys to see like what works. You know, if you're thinking about opening a store and you want to test pillows versus candles versus upholstery and like see what people are reacting to, you already know what your audience is going to go for based on their information, right? And if you're going to try out like service-based content, like explaining, is it color, is it pattern, is it wallpaper, is it room specific, is it mood boards, like you can see what your audience is interested in.
And it doesn't cost a lot, by the way.
Yeah.
You can do it for very little money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Hey, I wanted to go back to your trend about building your storefront on Instagram.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if it still does it, but you had to have like 10,000 followers to be able to swipe up.
Swipe up, yeah.
Is that?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yep.
And you can link it. So if you have less than 1,000 followers, you can
Correct.
link. And then if you're buying something from Serena and Lily, like online store, are you going to get paid for posting it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I believe, and I literally heard this morning. So we had 2 calls with service providers this morning, and I was like, we need to get storefronts up and running for you, like right now. So what's great is that if you buy from, I'm sure like most designers, people buy from a mix of retail brands and trade brands, right? So you may be buying from Serena and Lily, but you may also be buying from Schumacher. Schumacher, and I'm gonna just go ahead and take a guess on this. I am guessing that Instagram storefronts is all based on like them having their catalog plugged into the Instagram backend, which usually means they're on Shopify. So brands like Serena and Lily, if you can shop their storefront, then that likely means you can also build your own storefront around that product. And the answer to your question, I think, is yes. If someone buys it based on your post, you will be able to make money on that sale. Don't quote me, but I'm almost positive because that's how Amazon Shops works too. Like it's basically just a curated recommendation platform, and as a service provider, like why not? You may as well get paid if someone buys that sofa, even if they don't hire you.
So for Serena and Lily, that would be, you'd have to link it to that brand, and then if you did another storefront brand, like
Yes.
Anthropologie, you'd
Yes,
link it to
exactly. You need to link to the brand whose product it is.
versus reward style? Because I know that's hard to get.
I think it's basically taking the reward style link and making it a more seamless transaction where you're actually checking out on platform. So like what people usually buy, like ballet flats impulse purchase, now it's like you see it, you know how people have their catalog tagged on Instagram where you can like literally see the product, and you can check out a lot of times like without leaving Instagram. Yeah. So that's what it would be. Okay. It's really similar, like, and I use Amazon only because it's like kind of the one who does it the most, but like they have influencers who have Amazon shops, and like it's annoying because you have to go to Amazon to do it, but Instagram wants to keep you on platform. So if you have a storefront, you can link to anyone whose catalog I believe is set up through Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we've got, all right, if we can make them quick, we got room for 2 questions, but we got to go quick.
So real quick, back to the music. Do you have any analytics on, there are trending musics that just will not work with a certain brand? Maybe there's curse words or it's just, so do you have it where if you turn it so you can't even hear it, it's like you just can't, it's like there, does it still perform in the same way as you? Okay, perfect.
Yep, you can attach the sound to your reel and you don't actually have to have the sound turned up. Yep.
I'll get you, Courtney.
Okay, if you could just go back to the idea of tagging for a designer, and you've created this room and you've shown this room and you're tagging the product I don't like tagging my products because then people know where they can go and shop and buy the item in my picture. Mm-hmm. So can you just, again, go back and talk about that a little bit, why it's still a good idea to tag that product?
Yeah, two things. So according to this influencer that we heard this morning, they're prioritizing people who tag products in their posts because Instagram wants to really make itself a shoppable platform. So if you're just like essentially a portfolio poster where you're just posting photos and there's like no commerce links and no brands and no tags, you're not really interacting with the platform in the way that they want you to, so they're not going to show as much of your content. Really though, for you, like, I would recommend tagging your vendors because your vendors want those photos to repost on their account. So you get free marketing and publicity. Like, I'm just using Circa as an example, but like Circa has a ton of followers. And like and they also have consumers who may want to hire designers who may be in your area. And if you are tagging a Circa light and they really love that image, they're going to want to use it on their own social media, maybe in their mailings. I have designers who, and I'll just use Schumacher because they're amazing at content. I have a client who had something featured on Schumacher's Instagram and she got like 5 times the followers that she did when she's had editorial coverage. It's crazy. And that was like an image that just happened to use their wallpaper. So like, it's really, really good for you to do. And again, like, my argument is that if someone is gonna buy a wallpaper and not hire you, they were never gonna be a client of yours in the first place. So you may as well get the credit from the brand who will then reshare it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a big problem if you want to get paid by these big brands.
Also, if you ever want to go into licensing, you really should be tagging your vendors because if they want to, when they're deciding who they want to partner with, they can say like, we know we work with brands. They will look at what content performed for them and they're like, this designer consistently is in our top performers of images. Like, we really need to think about working with them. And I would guess at that time, you're also a big client of theirs. And like, brands want to partner with designers who spend money with them and who create amazing content.
I do it with my page.
Yeah.
She knows I do it with my page, but I just don't do it with a lot of the product. But
Yeah.
I do. I want to start.
We've got one last question here. Courtney's been waiting patiently.
Okay, so sorry. So we really want to tag our products, but you have to put pricing in there in order, like, to showcase your product, and sometimes that doesn't work for if you have trade pricing.
Yeah.
So is there any way around that you would recommend not putting pricing up, but able to tag product?
Are you talking, so there's two different.
We'd like to stay in Instagram.
Yeah, there's basically two different things that you can do. You can tag, like, trade brands are not, you're not gonna be able to do storefronts because they're not plugged into Shopify.
No.
I know. But you can do, like, this is
Like
where you
the
can.
link in bio.
You can reverse engineer it. So let's say you have a room and you have Schumacher and Circa and the Rug Company and you have Serena and Lily. And the only brand in that photo that is plugged into Instagram shopping is Serena and Lily. Just put Serena and Lily on there. Tag all your vendors so that they see you and they want to use your content and they recognize that you're working with them. So you get the added marketing value if they hopefully repost. But then just tag the one product that happens to be shoppable. Like, it doesn't have to, your whole life doesn't have to be shoppable. The point is lean into what they're rewarding where it makes sense, right? Every project you do is gonna have some retail product and some trade product, and that's totally fine. Just utilize the ones that are retail in the shops. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that totally does.
Okay.
Sorry, we are running overtime, so that was awesome. That we could
Thank
keep
you.
going for hours.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Laura. And again, we'll have this on available later.